Good evening and welcome to North Lanarkshire Live. I'm Martin Greekin, and tonight we have Becky Wood from the North Lanarkshire Recovery Community here to talk to us. And hello, Becky.
Hi, Martin. Good to see you tonight.
So tell us, what is the North Lanarkshire Recovery Community?
So the North Lanarkshire Recovery Community is a real grassroots organisation, and in its simplest terms, really it's a group of people who are in recovery from any type of addictive behaviour, who want to get together, socialise, be in a safe place where they can look at their addiction and their recovery and get better together. And also make that possible for other people who are looking to get into recovery.
So what sort of activities do you provide?
So the community is it's really led by the community members. So we do lots of mutual aid meetings. We do recovery support. We look at our mental health and well-being. We look at physical fitness, and we want to provide a safe place where we can socialise. So there's a real array of different activities available for people that are all based around those sort of three themes. So that can include a meditation group or a recovery support mutual aid meeting. We utilise something called Smart Recovery, so we have a few Smart Recovery meetings. We have our own form of mutual aid where we really get together, we share our experiences, and we can support other people to maybe use an idea that helped us in early recovery by sharing that with somebody who's experiencing a similar situation. And we want to try and get people outdoors, get them active, get involved in the creative arts. So we have a little arts group where a bit similar to this, where we record a little session with local artists. We especially love our community members who are interested in the arts. We've got a house musician, so one of our members of staff is a really fantastic songwriter and guitar player. So he plays for our little show when we're recording that, and we invite guests in. So we've had people from all different walks of life that have come in and told us about their experience, whether it's writing, rapping, or music. And we do things like a little jamming session, so anybody who can play an instrument can come together and play a bit of music together, which is usually it's great for the musicians. I'm not so sure it's a spectator sport really, or a big rowdy noise, but just such good fun, to get together and play for a while. We do other things, so we've got a fishing group. We've got a walking network, and we're thinking about things that we can do now that lockdown is over as well. It sort of opens a few more doors for us. We do some of that stuff we were able to sort of carry on during lockdown. So, we have hill walking and just getting together outdoors, I think, is an amazing way of getting recovery, getting better mental health, breathing in that fresh air, getting the sun on your skin, or the rain, as our experience in Scotland. But I think just that camaraderie of getting people together who have a shared experience and can help each other.
So how long has the group been around? How long have you been in existence for?
So in North Lanarkshire, we actually so we're a commissioned organisation. So we put in a bid for providing a recovery in North Lanarkshire. and that was over a year and a half ago. So a year and a half ago, in December, we put in and won this contract, and then in January we recruited our little team. It's just a small team, so 4 members of staff and me as the team leader. And then in February they came actually together to start working, and then of course in March we went into full lockdown. So it's been since February of last year, 20, that in theory we were up and running and working as an organisation. And we did do that. We moved immediately to a digital platform, and we organised online support. So we have a little meditation group in the morning. We still do that. Some of that online stuff, people just love it, so we're carrying that on. We have an online recovery support group, so one of these mutual aid meetings where people can learn about 12-step fellowships and get together to talk about what's going on for them today, how their day's going, what they can do to make that better. We again, smart recovery, we can have a smart recovery meeting. And everything that we do is a decision by community members. So we have our monthly community meeting where the community get together. So more recently, just gradually over the last year and a half, we've been able to do some live face-to-face stuff, and we've used the opportunities when they arose. So when the lockdown measures were eased a little bit, we did some face-to-face training. And we've done some really amazing stuff over the years, at Christmas time. We planned to have a big face-to-face Christmas party. That quite clearly wasn't going to happen. And we do our own cooking. So, if you're in recovery or you're passionate about recovery and you want to volunteer for us and you're a chef, we want to know you. And you can come in and cook at our cafes, which I'll come on to in a minute. And at Christmas time, we provide a great big traditional Christmas meal for all our community members. We couldn't do that last year. So one of the local colleges actually in Forth Valley provided the food. And we went out and delivered it to everybody. Everybody had a day where they were and a time where we were all to get together on Zoom, and have our Christmas meal together, and we had some games and things that we did while we were eating, and it was just amazing, absolutely amazing,
So the benefit of having a show like this is I get to ask the stupid questions that someone watching would be too embarrassed to ask. So when you say recovery, what do you mean?
Yeah, so recovery is about living your life in a different way after addiction, and one of the fantastic things about the recovery community is that everybody who is involved in the community is in recovery from an addiction themselves. So all our members of staff, or they have first-hand experience of somebody else who's in addiction, so maybe a family member who's struggling in addiction. And that's any type of addictive behaviour. So I can briefly, because I can go on, but very briefly give you a little bit of my own story, which was that I was a fairly unhappy child. I didn't particularly relate to the world in the way other people do. I couldn't quite make those connections. I found childhood a bit of a mystery. I certainly found education a bit of a mystery. I felt overwhelmed quite a lot of the time. I got married young. I had children young. I was in a relationship with which was quite an unhealthy relationship. So I'd sort of dependencies on other people around about me to fix me and make me feel better. None of that stuff, my childhood, school, or my early experience of a relationship allowed me to maybe feel happy in my life. I had mental health issues. I went drug seeking to my doctor. I was on antidepressants. I got sleeping tablets, and that just sort of carried on and evolved. I would drink heavily at the weekends. I tended to get into trouble when I had a drink, so I wasn't able to, drink socially like other people might. And eventually I went into a new relationship with somebody who used drugs, and I started using drugs. And that point in my life, I thought I'd found the answer to my mental health problems. I thought it was like breathing out a sigh of relief. And I was just like, that's it, I've found the answer, and this will be me now for the rest of my life. And of course, it doesn't work that way, because addiction is progressive. It saps the life out of you. You start to have to do, break the law to get the drugs that you want, and to finance your situation. And eventually I got to a point where I'd had enough. I wanted to do something different. I was waking up disappointed in the mornings that I'd survived the night, and I knew that day that I needed to do something different. And I was really lucky that the area that I lived in Forth Valley, had a recovery community, and I got connected to that.
Because, obviously, Scotland has got quite high drugs deaths at the moment.
Yeah.
And I always remember seeing Kenny Everett talking about drugs when he'd got himself clean, and he'd made the statement that we educate wrong about drugs, in terms of, we always say drugs are bad, drugs are dry, drugs are bad, and he said drugs are brilliant. It's the next day that's really, really bad. So if you just say drugs are bad, people try them and go, well, this is absolutely amazing. Why are they complaining about it? Is it? No, it's fine short term. It seems great, and it seems like as you said, you try it and you go, well, this makes me feel great. This is good. I love this. This is brilliant. But then as it progresses along, it gets worse and worse. The downside becomes, the downs become more, and the downs become more, and then you get into this vicious cycle. Do you think we need to sort of change our tact on how we educate people about drugs?
Yeah, I think we do. I think in Scotland we've made the fantastic move, I think, as a government, of now looking at Scotland's drug problem as a health problem, as opposed to a criminal justice problem, which it's always been seen as up to this point. And I think that's fantastic. Our organisation looks at any addictive behaviour, and any addiction can, whether it's overeating, anorexia, obsessive shopping, gambling, there's all sorts of behaviours that can become addictive, and we really try to encourage people to be completely balanced in their life, to be able to do things that are good for them, not things that are negative. And alcohol in Scotland is a huge issue as well. Our organisation caters for any addictive behaviours and supports, because you treat it all in the same way. The way that I manage my recovery is the same for me as for the person sitting next to me who's got an addiction to exercise. You live that you work on the root causes of how that addictive behaviour came out, because it's a symptom, it's not the root cause. The root cause is that loneliness, the disconnection, depression, fear, abuse, trauma. I'd be hard pressed to meet anybody who. And
some people just have that addictive nature.
Yeah, and I think I do. I think people can have that. I think a lot of my family members have that addictive nature, but some of them channel that in a more positive way. I think I had the addictive nature and then the opportunity to use drugs. So I think, you know, that was bad luck for me, maybe. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it's in our natures. I think it's a mixture of nature and nurture and your circumstances.
And I think though, you've got to, society has moved on though in terms of its reaction to someone's addicted to drugs, in terms of their attitudes towards them, because you go back 20 years and it was you know, it was somebody sitting smoking 20 fags a day and drinking coffee going, junkies, and you're going, well, wait a minute, you're addicted to all that. Or you're going out and drinking 5 pints a night.
Yeah.
And you can't go without your alcohol, but someone tries an illegal substance and it's seen as a different level of addiction, but it's just an illegal addiction. That's where the problem comes in. So there is, in America, obviously they're taking steps now where they've legalized cannabis. Do you think that's something that, like, the UK should probably look at, in terms of, if when a country that's so right wing and so hard, I mean, their laws on drugs are ridiculous compared to Europe. But you think, well, if they're going liberal with it, should we not even just be investigating the possibility that legalization or decriminalization of a drug, maybe not legalization, but decriminalization is...
I definitely think that decriminalisation is something that should be seriously looked at. And of course, that's a UK issue. It isn't up to Scotland whether they change the laws. I think it's something Scotland would like to do. And I think they are, in Scotland, we're going down that route by whatever means we can. So people are treated more liberally when they are, you know, and they're offered more support, rather than, because we can't carry on the way we are. We're just going to end up with everybody locked up in jail, with, you know, and it's already happening. You know, people are jailed, and that doesn't resolve the problem. If anything, it makes it worse, because, you know, their addiction is compounded by loneliness, fear, incarceration. Not having their issues addressed, because you just can't do that, and a jail isn't the environment for that. So I think it's definitely the way forward. That you know, I think we need to make sure we know the difference between legalising and decriminalisation as well. I'm certainly not for, you know, heroin being sold at coffee shops or anything like that, or even cannabis for that matter. I'm not even that keen on that idea. But I don't think people should be punished for having a mental health and a health problem. You know, I think that's just ridiculous. And we wouldn't do it with any other health condition. And we don't treat any other health condition with the contempt that we do alcohol and drug problems. You know, we just don't treat it, and people are blamed so much for having something that they can't help having, and they're not supported to get the help that they need. They're just, you know, basically pushed to the side and told they can't handle their drink, or they can't, you know, or they're criminals, and sort of left to it. And that's not the way our society wants to be anymore, I don't think. You know, I think people have a lot more I don't know anybody personally, putting myself aside here, that doesn't know somebody who's in addiction, or has had problems in the past, in their family, you know, in this housing scheme that they live in. You know, we're all affected by addiction, because it's sort of human nature as well. You know, addictive behaviours really are our way of trying to cope with various different things. We're naturally, we naturally have addictive behaviours, because it's a sort of survival technique gone wild, that's just gone too far. So using a substance or a behaviour to ease that pain in your brain is really you looking for a solution to the pain that you're feeling, and that's being human.
It was when we were talking earlier, and you were saying about being aggressive as a drunk, an aggressive drunk. It's always so like when somebody's an aggressive, like as somebody said, they're a bad drunk, and it's usually the friends and family will advise them and step in a bit early. But it's sometimes you feel when somebody's a happy drunk, someone when and it's they can go for years and people just go, yeah, but it's all right, it's all right, because it doesn't affect anyone else. But you still think that person is drinking themselves into a stupor for a reason, to be that happy-go-lucky person. And I sometimes feel for those people, because they get later diagnosed by friends and family as being. I mean, I was very lucky. I don't drink anymore except occasionally. I tend to drive everywhere I go now, and that stops you. That just stops you doing anything. But when I was younger, I used to, the stupid level. But I was a happy drunk, so people never really thought it was a problem. But I would say that I was very lucky that I'm too cheap to become an addict. Would be the how much for a pint? No, I don't think so. It's interesting that you say it's not just drugs and alcohol though. It's people that are addicted to other things as well, as you say, shopping and shopping sounds like a weird one, but that could destroy someone's life surely if they're addicted to shopping. I know. And
sorry.
I was going to say I know a few people that have ran up ridiculous credit card bills buying stuff they don't need. And would never need, and then they've got to work to pay it off, and then that brings on the depression of you're in massive debt. So I take it that's what you were meaning in terms of.
And it serves exactly the same purpose when you think about it. So you're feeling unhappy with life, or just bored, or we describe it sometimes as sort of that hole in the soul. So your life isn't. You're not feeling satisfied in your life. You want something to make you feel better. You open your computer, you click on that website, you get that feeling of excitement, you look through the stuff, you're getting excited and that feeling of joy, and then you press that button, you buy. And as soon as you've bought that item, then potentially you then feel like, what did I get that for? Why did I do that? Then it's a bit like that fix. Once you've got it, it passes. It's the short-term stuff that you're talking about. So then you want to do it again. And then, of course, you have the guilt and the shame and the debts and the hiding what you're doing. And, I think any of those sort of behavioural addictions are really difficult to get help for, to get understanding of, to share with people. It's you have to stop that behaviour and get the help and support you need. But we live in such a sort of consumer society that you're constantly bombarded with, you should have this thing, you should have this item of furniture, you should look this way, you should dress like this, you should have these items in your house. It's a bit like having a supermarket shelf stacked with your drugs of choice. Everybody would be horrified if there was heroin on the shelves, but they're not so horrified if it's items of furniture, soft furnishings and clothes, and that's okay. And I think the solution is the same. So and you'd mentioned about what is recovery. Well, recovery is really working on to match your insides to your outsides. So You know, you don't look as though you're ill. Having an addiction doesn't show on the outside. It's something that's internalized, and getting an opportunity to really look at where does this come from? What can I do when I start feeling that craving? You know, what do I do now in my life if I'm not using, I'm not drinking, I'm not acting out? You know, and I think I love it. I think everybody should look at themselves and look at a new way of living their lives. You know, being able to cope with trauma, with stress, with family, with, you know, it's an amazing position to be in, and to really manage your life on life's terms is a total blessing.
Because of course there is like healthy addictions. You can be addicted to painting, or you could be addicted to playing the guitar, or like playing music and things like that. So that's like it's taking your addictive nature and applying it to something that's a much more positive outcome, if you know what I mean. So it's not quite changing the nature, but you're sort of shifting that addiction to something that's a bit more positive, that's not going to be damaging to you.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us in recovery, a lot of the stuff we do at the recovery cafes, which is a sort of safe place for people to come and socialise and, you know, get a meeting, get some healthy food. I think a lot of the stuff that we encourage is to channel that addictive nature into something really positive. As long as you're wary that you don't go down a sort of obsessive compulsive road. So it's about balance as well. And I think that's why, you know, I'm a musician. I like the buzz of performing. I like, you know, I'm a perfectionist. I practice and practice till it's perfect, and I feel annoyed when it doesn't sound the way I want it to. And so you know, I think that is a positive part of my addictive behaviour. But I have to, along with that can come a lot of self-criticism and nerves. You know, a lot of musicians feel quite nervous, and you know, a lot of musicians become addicts, and you know, it's either to calm those nerves or to replicate that sort of buzz that you get when you're performing. But we want to channel it into something really healthy. I'm also a mad climber. I love climbing, which I discovered when I got into recovery, so it's quite new for me. And so I really practice my recovery to live a balanced life. So, you know, I work in a job I love. I connect with people who are in recovery. I support people who are trying to get into recovery. And I play music. I've got a family life. I go climbing, and I try to balance my week out so that I've got a bit of time to, you know, that I'm spending time with my mum, that I spend time with my partner, that I work for a living. That can be very addictive as well. And then that I have fun. So you know, and now today, through the encouragement I got at the recovery community, I can look after my physical health. I can identify if I'm starting to become overwhelmed or obsessed with something, and just, you know, try and get a bit more balance in my life.
Is the group prepared for, because there is going to be a mental health spike coming out of lockdown? I think people are pretty much aware that people have been in isolation for a long time. Maybe some people have maybe got themselves clean during that time and might be entering recovery. Yeah. Some people might have developed addictions and trying to get out of that system during recovery. Yeah. Are you seeing a spike at the moment, or are you prepared for one coming?
I think we are certainly prepared to be available and offering help and support to anybody who needs it. And I think it was amazing that we were available, and we went to any lengths to connect with people at the start of lockdown. Of course, people fall through the net. We did things like we got telephones that we could take out to people. We got some technology through Connecting Scotland that we were able to iPads and things like that. So people could get connected onto the online groups. And really, I mean, we had about 200 people on our social media groups by the time we after a couple of months. So that people have really embraced that and connected. And that's been fantastic. But you always get people who are just not into the technology, or just not got the ability to buy and keep a phone, or to, have the wherewithal to know how to get the help that they need. So I think you're right. I think post-lockdown, I agree with the addiction stuff. I think it went really well for people, or it was a disaster for people when we went into lockdown. And I think the people that it went well for connected with us. And they connected from all over the world, by the way, because we were on a digital platform. We actually had groups that were available to anybody who had a Zoom link to one of our meetings. But also there were some people who we just lost contact with. And we did our best. So, we went out, we did something called a walk and talk. So we would meet one-to-one with people and just get a chat with them, try to keep connected. We did phone calls with people who weren't that keen on the other social sort of media stuff. So we did the best that we could, but I know that there'll be people out there who have really struggled over this period. But we're definitely ready now. We've got just over the last couple of months, we've opened up our live cafes. So the first one was on our own premises in Airdrie. Then we opened a cafe up in Cumbernauld. We're trying to spread across North Lanarkshire as well. So we're not just got our premises and you have to come and see us. We'll go to a community centre or a church hall, or, and just try and spread out a little bit. Engage with other community groups like yours to, do you want us to come over and take part in your music group? Anything that we can do to just engage with community members. And I mean the wider community. We've got our most recent cafe is in the Forgewood in Motherwell at their brand spanking new community centre there, which is an amazing venue. It's absolutely great. So the Motherwell cafe has been open for about 4 or 5 weeks. And we were feeling a little bit disheartened that it had been quite quiet. And it's just over the last couple of weeks it's got busier and busier. And I know that's the way it will go. Our model is based on the recovery community in Forth Valley. And I just know that if you're open, you're in the community, you're reaching out and you're consistent, you're there every week, then people soon find out what you're doing. People are nosy, people want to find out what's happening in that building. Just consistency is a fantastic thing. We've been putting out leaflets, but word of mouth is absolutely the greatest way to encourage people through the doors. And people tell their grannies, their children, the postman will tell you to come along. Somebody shouted down from one of the balconies in the flats opposite one of our cafes to ask what was going on. He came over. So, anybody can come along. And that's just the start. So we'll be opening a cafe in Coatbridge and Bells Hill soon. And I think in Bells Hill we're going to have a weekend cafe. So it'll be evening, but early evening. So, from 4 till 8. And that'll be a safe place for people to come on a Saturday night when other people are down the pub. They can come and get something that's a substance-free environment, but where you can sit and have a laugh. And, I think the best thing that we offer is just that sort of fellowship that you get from getting a chat with somebody who's done something as mad as you. It's a great feeling, and to find out that person likes the things that you like, and wants to go to a club that you're too frightened to go to. I think it's just amazing, it's a great way. And And once we've done all that, then we reach further out. So, we can make a community a better place. We can do litter picking. We can provide a sports day if somebody wants that. We can have outdoor events, and just make the community a nicer place to live.
So, right, how do I get involved in the recovery community?
So it's really easy to get involved with us. We are on social media, so you look up North Lanarkshire Recovery Community. We're on Twitter, Facebook. We've got various accounts that are all attached to each other. We're on Instagram. You can email me, and maybe you could put details out for that, Martin. Maybe let you contact you, and you can put people in contact with us. And
I notice how easy it is to get roped into this, because obviously suddenly now I'm your liaison for it. So.
Yes, definitely. So contact you, and but really, look us up on social media. Our email addresses and telephone numbers are advertised all over everywhere. Find out where your nearest recovery cafe is. Contact your addictions worker, the local council, ADP. Everybody knows who we are and what we're doing. Find out where your local. If you put local recovery cafe into Google, it will come up with options for us, where we are, what we're doing, and just come along. Be brave. Give us a ring and say, I heard about your recovery community, whether you want to volunteer, whether you want help for yourself, whether you want help for yourself but it's because you're struggling with a family member. If you're just passionate about recovery, then come along and find out what we're all about.
Well, thanks very much for coming on, Becky. It's been great to chat to you, and hopefully this will raise the profile for you in the coming weeks. Okay.
Fantastic. Yeah, it was really good chatting, and good to see everybody. Thank you.
Well, that was Becky Wood from the North Lanarkshire Recovery Community, and obviously, as Becky was saying, they've got cafes opening up all across North Lanarkshire. If you're a member of a community group and you want to come on and chat to us and raise awareness of the work that you do within North Lanarkshire, or even abroad or anywhere around the world, we're quite happy to chat to you on a Thursday night. We've got guests coming up for the next 4 weeks straight, and then we're going to start scaling back to once a fortnight, because as we come out of lockdown, I have to start going out and earning money to keep the lights on in the studio. But until next week, I will say good night and thanks for watching.